Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on a truly monumental journey, diving straight into the mind itself. We're looking at the epic scale of Sri Jayatirtha's Dvaita epistemology. And look, this isn't just about how we memorize facts from a textbook, right? It's an ancient, incredibly rigorous framework that maps out exactly how we know what we know. It goes all the way from the supreme vantage point of the cosmos, literally down to the physical senses we're using every single day. It is this vast, interconnected system of cosmic logic, and I am absolutely thrilled to break it down for you. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's really think about this for a second. Is your knowledge eternal, or is it just a temporary thought? We usually just assume that what we know is simply a collection of facts bouncing around in our heads. But contrast that with a perfect, eternal mind. A mind that knows everything, past, present, and future, all at the exact same time. And then look at our everyday flickering thoughts that just kind of come and go, shift and fade. How do we even begin to measure our understanding against absolute perfection? Well, that gap, that massive space between eternal truth and temporary thought, that is exactly what we're decoding today.
So here's the roadmap for our descent down the cosmic ladder today. First, the cosmic hierarchy. Second, eternal versus mental knowledge. Third, the destiny's matrix. Fourth, refuting Vaisheshika. And finally, the instruments of truth.
Starting off with Section 1, the cosmic hierarchy of knowledge. Modern frameworks often treat learning as this flat, universal experience, right? But this ancient philosophy does something entirely different. It classifies knowledge based on exactly who possesses it, meaning truth looks very different depending on where you stand in the universe. Let's just walk right down this cosmic ladder. Step 1, at the very top, is Ishvara Jnana, the knowledge of God. Step 2 is Lakshmi Jnana. Step 3 brings us to Yogi Jnana, which belongs to enlightened beings. And finally, Step 4 is Ayogi Jnana, the knowledge of non-yogis. Notice the pattern we're tracking here? It's a massive shift. We start with knowledge that is completely infinite and independent at the top, and we drop down to knowledge that is limited, bounded, and highly dependent at the bottom.
So, at that very summit, we find absolute perfection. Ishvara Jnana is completely infinite, entirely independent, and literally always accurate, without fail. It's this beginningless clarity that grasps everything that ever was, is, or will be all at once. Now, just beneath that is Lakshmi Jnana. This one is nearly infinite and incredibly clear, but it has one massive distinction. It is dependent on God. Still, both of these top tiers represent an eternal, unfailing grasp of reality. Now check out this fascinating gradation within the enlightened beings. Under Yogi Jnana, we actually have 3 distinct levels of enlightened power. First, the Riju, who are advanced enough to literally be fit for the post of a creator. Then the Tattvika, the ruling deities of cosmic principles. And the Attatattvika, the great sages whose knowledge is vast, sure, but it actually has a beginning. And then, well, and there's the bottom tier, Ayogi Jnana. That's us, common souls. Our knowledge is severely limited, and if we're being totally honest, it's filled with ignorance about practically anything outside our immediate physical surroundings. The crucial takeaway here is summarized beautifully by this metaphor. God's knowledge is a perfect sun that never sets. Ours is a small lamp that flickers. I absolutely love this. It takes this huge, abstract cosmic hierarchy and grounds it into something deeply relatable and honestly quite poetic. We're all just navigating the universe with our little flickering lamps, while the ultimate reality above is this blazing, eternal sun. Moving on to Section 2, your eternal versus mental knowledge.
So we've looked at the hierarchy of the cosmos, but now we really need to look inward. How does knowledge actually exist within you? This brings us to a vital Dvaita distinction regarding our internal experience of reality. First, there's Svarupa knowledge. This is your constitutional knowledge. It's the eternal, essential nature of your soul itself. In a state of total liberation, this is literally the only thing that remains. But then, on the flip side, we have Vritti Jnana. This is your mental modification. Your temporary, flowing, everyday stream of consciousness that relies entirely on your mind and senses. It's basically the difference between who you fundamentally are eternally versus what you just happen to be thinking about right this very second.
All right, Section 3, the 3 destinies of souls. Now, this framework makes a pretty bold argument that our fundamental cosmic destiny dictates our baseline accuracy in grasping truth. Because remember, we just established that our everyday knowledge is pretty limited. Looking at these 3 types of beings, first up we have the Mukti Yogyas. These are souls destined for liberation. Their eternal soul nature, their swarupa jnana, is fundamentally aligned with truth. It's always accurate, even if their everyday mental thoughts happen to make a mistake now and then. Second, the nitya samsarans. These are average souls bound to the eternal cycle. Their foundational nature is just a messy mixture of truth and error. And finally, the tamo-yogyas, souls destined for eternal darkness. Their very nature is rooted in untruth, which means their soul knowledge is always false or distorted, and that practically guarantees their mental thoughts are usually mistaken. So your destiny literally colors your ability to perceive reality. Crazy, right?
Section 4. Refuting the Vaisheshika School.
Now, Jayatirtha wasn't just building his philosophical system in a vacuum. He rigorously dismantled competing theories to prove his own logic. For instance, the rival Vaisheshika school claimed there were only 4 sources of knowledge: senses, logic, memory, and the intuition of sages. Look at how Jayatirtha fires off 3 swift, surgical rebuttals here. First, he points out their model completely ignores God's eternal knowledge and the authority of scriptures. Kind of a big omission. Second, he argues that what they call intuition doesn't even need its own category. It's simply a subset of the yogi knowledge we already defined. And third, memory doesn't need a separate bucket either, because it's automatically included in the broader definition of accuracy. Boom! With incredible precision, he cleanly absorbs or dismisses their entire framework.
Which brings us to Section 5, the instruments of truth.
Okay, we are stepping down from the cosmic hierarchy now and getting into the practical tools we actually use to parse truth in our daily lives. We're leaving the abstract realm of theoretical soul matrices and jumping straight into hard logic. The core concept here is anupramana, defined as yathartha jnana sadhanam. Translated, that means the means or instrument of accurate knowledge. Now, at first glance, that might seem like a fairly simple sentence, but it is actually an incredibly tight logical puzzle, and we're going to decode it together right now.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why Jayatirtha's logic is so incredibly airtight. Literally every single word in that definition is pulling massive weight. Think about it. If you remove the word yatatha, meaning accurate, the definition would accidentally include broken instruments that lead to doubt or error. It'd be like looking through a cracked telescope and calling it truth. If you remove jnana, meaning knowledge, the definition would suddenly include physical tools, like an axe. An axe is an instrument, sure, but for cutting wood, not for knowing truth. And crucially, if you remove sadhanam, meaning instrument, you wouldn't be able to separate the tool from the knowledge itself. The entire logic collapses if you touch even a single word. It's just brilliant. So, that brings us to the end, and I want to leave you with a provocative question to really ponder. Knowing now that you are a flickering lamp in this vast cosmic hierarchy, how will you use the instruments of truth to cut through your own ignorance today? I really hope this explainer illuminated this magnificent ancient framework for you and showed you how deeply intertwined our fundamental nature is with our ability to seek truth. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the profound depths of the mind and the cosmos. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and I will catch you in the next explainer.